Here's your host, Dennis Rimmer.
And welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. It's another edition of our Talking Books and Stuff podcast. Today, from way down in Louisiana, we have Myriam Chancy, a award-winning author of What Storm, What Thunder. And the new book we have right in front of us is called Village Weavers. So perhaps we can start off, Myriam, you can just tell us who you are and how you got from Haiti to Quebec to Manitoba to the USA. Well,
Sure. Thank you for having me, first of all. And I should say I'm in Los Angeles right now. I used to live in Louisiana, but I'm in Los Angeles.
But the area code fooled me. So.
Yeah, that's when you don't change your cell phone number, you end up with you fool a lot of people. Yeah, I did get this phone number when I was living in Baton Rouge. I haven't changed it since. Mm-hmm. So that was 15 years ago or more.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, but I was born in Port-au-Prince, and then my parents decided who actually had met in France, emigrated, had me in Haiti, and then emigrated to Canada. Started out in French Canada, where they both taught in Quebec City, and then had job opportunities in Winnipeg, Manitoba. So moved the family to Winnipeg, which is where I essentially grew up after Port-au-Prince, and did my schooling through my undergrad, University of Manitoba. Then I went from there to do a master's in Dalhousie, also in literature, but at that time I was working in African American literature. And then I got a SHERP, and with the SHERP I went to the University of Iowa, where I did my PhD. And then I stayed in the States since then, working as a professor and continuing to write.
That's right. And your writing right now is, the book we have is Village Weavers. So what drew you to this story?
So Village Weavers, the new novel, comes out of the passing of my mother in 2019. And she passed away in Winnipeg, but around the same time, so maybe a couple of years before and a year after, her entire sibling group also passed away.
Oh.
And these were individuals, different ages, different decades, but so we talk about four siblings and then some half-siblings all passed away. And I realized with their passing, people born in the 20s and 1930s, what died with them were, all of the stories they had about Haiti in the 40s to the 50s, and then the stories of their emigration, to other countries. And so the novel really started out with this idea of going back to the period of the 40s and 50s before, the dictatorship and other things that you now see on the news, to kind of bring to readers this sense of what Haiti was like for that generation, and then what compelled them, to leave the country, and then how they might have negotiated living in new countries, always wanting to return to Haiti. So that's essentially what was the idea behind the novel, which, is a story of two little girls who meet in childhood and then find out a secret that breaks them apart, or that others use to keep them apart, and then how they then navigate their individual lives apart from each other, always being drawn back to one another over the course of a lifetime, which is like a 60-year period.
And they are Gertie and Cece. So who are they?
Yeah. So Gertie and Cece, as I said, meet in childhood. They're both born in Port-au-Prince. They have a connection to the Dominican Republic, which is on the other side of the same island of Hispaniola. And they are, navigating what it is, girlhood in Haiti at a time where girls did not have as many options as their male counterparts. But they also are living in Haiti at a time of great cultural, explosion, which is why the book centers a bit of time during the World International Expo, which was held there in 49 to 50, which a lot of people who are not Haitian or were not in Haiti at that time don't know very much about. And so they have to them, what is a very exciting childhood, where there's so much going on. And so they're just growing up in Haiti, like kids grow up in Winnipeg and Quebec and other places. But the book is colored by what it is like to be in Haiti at that time, and then eventually under the wake of dictatorship, they are both compelled to leave the country for different reasons. One leaves for France in her 20s. The other, because of that secret I alluded to, is actually made to go to high school in the Dominican Republic, and then eventually leaves for the United States to do her undergrad there, and so they had different trajectories over time.
And of those two, which character did you find one that you most identified with?
Well, what I say to readers is always, are they Team Cece or Team Gertie? I don't take sides as the writer. I just hope that the characters are fully drawn and that the readers feel like they get to understand the motivations of each of the characters. This is a story that's told in both the characters' voices. So we have two protagonists. The book previous to that was Storm to Thunder had 10 different voices. So this is a little bit more intimate of a story. And so I can't take sides, and I think the reader has to decide whether what happens between these two girls and how they reconnect over their lifetimes, whether they can understand, the motivations of one or the other, or the resistance of one or the other to reconnecting and going on, in the friendship.
And is there one character that was easier to write or harder to write than the other one?
I wouldn't say there was one that was easier or harder. I think that was more of a question in the previous novel because there were both 10 voices of different ages, different genders. I think I had to do, as one always does with every novel, you have to do your research. And definitely the character of Gertie, who ends up in the Dominican Republic and marries a Dominican man, I had to probably do a little bit more research. I am myself a quarter Dominican, but I haven't spent a lot of time in the Dominican Republic, and so I had to do a little more research on that side for accuracy's sake. But the novel is also looking at or using the relationship, the breaks and reconnections between these two girls as a way to think about the relationship between Dominicans and Haitians, which is fraught, which has been difficult, which is still difficult. And so definitely as a writer of fiction, you have to work through, your own biases, possibly, to think through how to tell the story fairly and how to, illustrate the characters' blind spots and then how they overcome them or don't.
So, like you said, you'd had to do lots of research, obviously. That goes
Sure.
into any kind of book. Did you learn anything new, though, when doing the research? Stuff you didn't quite know about or stuff that really surprised you?
Yeah, so there's a lot in the book around food, for example, and it might surprise readers to know that even though Haiti and the Dominican Republic are on the same island, what people eat on both sides is actually quite different. Even though there are some similarities. So, for example, on the Haitian side, every 1st of January for Independence Day, we eat a soup called soup jumu, which is on the base. It's like a butternut squash soup, We don't have butternut squash, but it's a squash soup. And that soup doesn't celebrate, nationhood on the Dominican side, but there's a soup that's very similar to it, which is current throughout Latin America, but doesn't have the same elements. The only similarity is that it has the same squash in it. And I learned recently that from a chef from Trinidad, actually, that the squash on the Dominican side was added later on, in the history of the soup on the Dominican side. But if you were to look at two bowls of these soups, you would think they were the same thing. But they don't have the same ingredients, and they don't have the same, political or national importance. So things like that, differences in what people eat, differences in the music, but also things that connected people across the island. For example, there's a drink called morir soñando, the die, dreaming. which is a drink that combines. I'm going to forget what's in it. I think it tastes like a dreamsicle, so it's orange juice and a cream. And you can also, of course, have it with alcohol or not. This is something that in the 40s to 50s was drunk on both sides of the island, but it usually marked that on the Haitian side that you were more elite or more upper class, if you had access to this drink or knew about it. So things like that, and of course things from the 40s that, my grandfather on my father's side was a foreman on the buildings of the Expo, which eventually became the Parliament building for the country. And he helped to build those, but I didn't know about people like Miles Davis and all the stars that went to Haiti for the Expo until I did the research. So those things were a surprise.
And the book is Village Weavers. It's a novel by Myriam Chancy. Two questions in one, kind of. Why should readers read Village Weavers, and what do you hope they take away from it when they do?
Well, it's a good story, so I hope they'll read it because they like a good story. I think people who like historical fiction or fiction that's based on historical fact will enjoy it. I also think, and this is partly my goal, that people who might have interest in Haiti or see the news and are not quite sure what to make of what's happening in the country today, reading a book like Village Weavers will give them some insight onto the long history of the country, the richness of the culture, and that what is happening today, is a consequence of the loss of some of these cultural moments and the loss of the knowledge of the history and the memory. And so even though for me, it was a personal project of recovering, a generation of my family and their memories of the Haiti, pre-dictatorship, pre-political, intervention, from the outside, I think that it will bring readers to understand the rich history of the country and to feel it at a more personal, intimate level, which I think is what literature is for.
And you've got a busy life. How do you find time? How do you find time to write?
Well, I'm a professor, but writing is my primary love, which I think is why I am an academic. And I mean, not all academics are writers, but I think if you're a writer, academic life is facilitated by being, by loving the written word, because I'm a professor of literature. And so I'm writing academic works, and now I'm writing more fiction than I ever was before, but it helps to have your summers off, like as I do now.
Well, that's a good point. Being a professor of literature, favorite authors over the years?
Favorite authors? When I was younger, I read a lot of James Baldwin, Toni Morrison, Canadians, of course, Margaret Lawrence, Margaret Atwood, all the Margarets.
Yeah.
Margaret Sweatman, who I actually took a course with a long time ago in Winnipeg. And more contemporary authors. Well, Paula Marshall, who's since has passed, a Caribbean author. But there's just a lot of great writing coming out of many places now. So I'm always reading.
Yep.
And so, but I think some of those names would be people I've been reading over time.
Well, I know you're a professor of English, a PhD, and award winner, but first day with my new lips. But maybe you can answer me this question. Haiti and the Dominican Republic are on the island of what used to be called Hispaniola, right? Yes,
it's still called that.
Yeah. Why is one side in such chaos, disarray, and people up here, for their winter vacation, they're going to go to the Dominican? Like, what happened? Why is one such, I'll say, a mess, even though I'm ignorant, and why is the other one not so much?
Well, I mean, there's different ways of looking at that, because you could say, okay, the Dominican Republic is thriving economically, and as you're saying, snowbirds will go there. There's a lot of European tourism as well.
Yep.
But when you start comparing the cultural output of the two countries, I think it's indisputable that there is a much longer literary history on the Haitian side, which continues, to the present day, both in French and Creole and in English at this point. And in terms of the visual arts, the artistic production on the Haitian side is much more pronounced. I mean, if you see a Haitian painting anywhere in the world, it's a Haitian painting. So and much more of a Dominican arts in the visual arts is derivative of Haitian art. So you could say, yes, okay, it's in disarray, and yet the ways in which Haiti has been able to preserve its culture over time is compared to any part of the Caribbean, actually, is much more pronounced. The problem is that we don't have a lot of work in translation, especially with people like Yannick Lahain, Danny Laferrière, who's in Quebec, or Gary Victor, who's still in Haiti, but also in France, who are not translated, so that people who are reading in English are less aware of the cultural production going on out of Haiti. But, in terms of the chaos that we're seeing now, I'm not in political science, but my last academic book was called Harvesting Haiti. Just won the Isis Duarte Prize from LASA, the Latin American Studies Association, and it is essays, both personal and political, about what has happened to Haiti since the 2010 earthquake. And so one has to understand that since the advent of the revolution, the success of the Haitian Revolution, Haiti has had to pay a cost for liberating itself. Today is Juneteenth. We're having this interview in Juneteenth, which is, the celebration of the United States of when formerly enslaved people were finally free, right? Which is not 1863 Emancipation Proclamation, but 1865.
Yep.
Haiti was freed itself in 1803 and declared itself independent and renamed itself Haiti from Saint-Domingue on January 1st, 1804. Shortly after that, they were cut off from world trade by France and had to pay an indemnity, which is, in terms of modern, quote-unquote, modern times, the only time that a winning power had to pay the losing power something in order to regain, to be recognized. And that's the beginning of Haiti's poverty. So it's a long history between 1804 to 2010. But then when we look from 2010 to today, we also know that billions of dollars went to Haiti and did not benefit the people on the ground. And you have to ask yourself, why not? So I would invite people to read Harvesting Haiti to find out, what's happening in terms of interventions, political interventions, the refusal of the United States to allow, the Haitian government to raise minimum wage, the fact that there is not an investment in the educational sector at the international level, but in factory work for Haitians, and why that is happening. So the simple answer, I've already made the answer very long, but the simple answer is that there's a kind of ideological warfare, against Haiti that has made it very difficult for Haitians to, advance their sovereignty, to hold on to it. And one could argue right now that the chaos that is descending into, which is mostly organized chaos, which is seems like an oxymoron, but is organized from the outside, is going to result in a complete loss of that sovereignty. At this point, of course, it's an uphill battle. How will Haiti regain some kind of footing? Haitians for themselves within their own country, and then within the hemisphere, within the region, and then the hemisphere. But it's a very complicated issue. So one of the things that Village Weavers attempts to do on a very intimate, interpersonal level is to engage what is that long history about? Why is it that there is so much anti-Haitianism in the Dominican Republic, and how it could inform people about why there's anti-Haitianism from the North American perspective towards Haiti. And a lot of that is about not knowing this very long history and the various ways in which Haiti has been prevented from flourishing since the moment that it declared its independence. And, got that independence through warfare, through armed warfare successfully at a time when nobody else was capable of doing it, and declared a country where everyone was equal, regardless of race, and even at the time, regardless of gender, which was unique.
So that's, and like you said, and all we see on TV is like, oh, here's another gang war, oh, here's another explosion, oh, here's another bombing. We don't know anything else, right? Because
Right.
like they say, if it bleeds, it leads. So if there's a big gang fight, oh, we're going to put that on the news. We don't care who's in the background making art, making literature, making music, trying to survive in a horrible world. And I was going to make a flip remark about the Dominican Republic. All they do is play baseball anyway, but I won't do that. That's kind of a sick thing to say. But they do.
Well, now there's a lot of people working, to repair, the damage that's been caused, which is really because of the long history of colonization between the countries, which comes from different places, right? Spain on the DR side and France on the Haitian side, and then with interference from the United States, Canada, and other countries since then, in different ways.
In different ways. Thank you very much for your time today. The book, Village Weavers, Myriam J.A. Chancy, and we'll let you get back to all your... it's summertime, so you get to write, I guess, a bit more.
It's summertime.
So good.
Thank you for having me, but I just wanted to let your readers know that I will be on tour with Village Weavers to Winnipeg and at Vancouver in the fall, so I hope to see them, and maybe you then too.
Okay, we'll put that on our calendar. Thanks very much.
All right, take care.
Thank you for visiting with us today. This is Talking Books and Stuff with Dennis Rimmer. Contact him at dennis@talkingbooks.tk. Thank you, and may all the good news be yours. Oh, and don't forget to check out his book, The Great Canadian Notebook, available across Canada and at amazon.ca.